The Louisville Cardinals finally enter the Jeff Brom era, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do for this team. This is a Cardinals team that has been solid and also had some frustrations, but today we're taking a look at the top 10 players that are going to make the Jeff Brom era a good one right away. George Jordan really came on strong towards the end of the year, but this is someone who I think has big play, 1,000-yard potential as a running back. We look at 815 yards, 5.7 yards per carry. He was really fun to watch towards the end of the year, like I said, and he's going to be fun to watch again at the beginning of this season. This is a player who is going to be utilized a little bit differently, maybe in Jeff Brom's system, but it's going to be fun to see what he can do. Maybe getting more involved in the pass catching, but he's still going to be that reliable running back, that reliable workhorse in the rushing attack to make things happen for Brom. One thing about Louisville is they've been able to produce some really exciting defensive backs, and Quincy Riley continues that tradition. 6 foot, 185 pounds, 3 interceptions last year was the biggest thing. Second team all ACC, according to College Football Network. It's really fun to see this more an underrated team that doesn't necessarily get the recognition that it deserves, but this is a group that's produced some really exciting players on the defensive side of the ball, and Riley is more than likely going to continue that tradition when the 2024 NFL draft comes around. Joining him in that secondary is another talented player in Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the former Florida State transfer, comes in at 6 foot, 190 pounds, so about the same size as Quincy Riley, and has plenty of production. And teams definitely tested him a little bit more last year. 12 passes defended, 2 interceptions. You look at, he also produced 66 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. He knows what he's doing on the defensive side of the ball. And honestly, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to throw against these two guys. So that's really going to be fun. This is a defense that, was pretty good defending the pass, 22nd in yards per game. And I think that they were able to get after the quarterback a little bit better than most. And that's going to be a big thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the cornerbacks will be just fine. The player that doesn't get enough love is center Bryan Hudson. This is someone who's played all three positions on the offensive line and has plenty of production and plenty of experience. He's someone that is going to be a huge veteran presence for Jeff Brom's system. And that's huge because this is a team that's going through learning a new playbook and whatnot. And having a guy like this at center is going to be invaluable, honestly, for this team. Now, we mentioned that group that was disruptive last year on the defensive line, and ASHTON GILLOTE is going to be one of those players to be able to step up. 6'3", 270 pounds, someone who had some pretty good production, 8 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. This is a group, again, that finished first in sacks last year, 7th in tackles for loss. So this is a group that was very disruptive. Now they lose quite a bit of talent when it comes to that side, but they also have some guys coming back as well. Jermaine Lowell comes back, Desmond Tell. There's going to be plenty of players that make this happen, but these are some of the guys that need to step up. They're probably not going to have that same production, but this is going to be a group that needs to be disruptive once again. Jack Plummer and Jeff Brom reunite once again, and I think that this is going to be the year we finally see him get to that breakout year. Now, he was doing really good things at Cal last year, which is saying a lot for what Cal is going through, but Jack Plummer comes in to run Brom's system to be able to get this offense to be explosive. And they have plenty of options that we'll talk about here in a little bit that can make that happen. He and JAWHAR Jordan give them one of the more underrated duos in the backfield in college football, but it's going to be really fun to see what they can do in this new system. Someone with big play potential for Plummer is JAMARI THRASH. The Georgia State transfer averaged 18.4 yards per catch last year, and that was a huge year for Georgia State. Now he comes to Louisville to hopefully do the same. If he's able to get some of that explosive playmaking ability onto the field and in this Jeff Brom system, then Louisville is in good hands. Jackson State lost a ton of talent, and one of those players that is looking for a new start is Kevin Coleman. Comes in from Jackson State, 5'11", 180 pounds, so maybe utilize more in the slot, but he is someone who has big playability, and it's really going to be fun to see how Brom is able to utilize him. I think when you're bringing any sort of player into Brom's system, you just almost expect them to be a really good player. And this former 4-star has the ability to make big plays. It's just that he has to learn the system first and figure out how he's going to fit in. Former North Carolina transfer Storm Duck initially transferred to Penn State, but decided to transfer once again. He winds up at Louisville, and this is another defensive back, maybe plays at corner, that's going to help out. You already have Quincy Riley and Jarvis Brownlee, but you give them another player, a veteran player that knows what he's doing, and it's going to be fun to see how do they utilize him, how do they get him on the field with all these guys, and what does that mean for this unit as a whole. And the final player is going to be safety MJ Griffin. He and Devin Neal are going to be two of the more underrated players at the position, just even within the ACC. 6'1", 210 pounds. Griffin knows how to run this defense. He knows how to man things on the back end of that defense in the secondary. And again, this is going to be a very talented secondary, a secondary that did a lot of good things in 2023. And Brom walks into a really good situation with that. In fact, Jeff Brom runs into a pretty good situation overall. Now there are some things that they need to figure out. This is an 8-5 team last year. And when you look at the bowl game against Cincinnati, wasn't exactly the strongest performance, but this is still a really good group. I'm excited to see how Jeff Brom does when he's finally back at his alma mater and seeing what this team can do. The offense needs to be more explosive, and the defense has plenty of talent. What does that mean for Louisville this year? We're not really sure, but it's going to be fun to see how Brom gets them to play.